So, are we actually watching the end of online anonymity as we know it? It's this massive question that's kind of quietly reshaping our digital world. All around the globe, governments are pushing for laws that could tie your real name to everything you do online. And believe me, it is sparking one fierce debate.
So let's just start with a really direct question for you to think about. Should you have to use your real government-issued name to post a comment, play a game, or just join a discussion? I mean, on the surface, it sounds simple enough, right? But the answer, it is incredibly complex.
Okay, before we dive any deeper, let's get our terms straight. When we talk about a real name requirement, we're not just talking about your username. We're talking about a policy where a platform has to actually verify your real-world identity, using an ID card, a phone number, something official, before you can even use their service. So what is driving this huge global push? Well, the main motivation really boils down to one powerful word: accountability. The people who support this believe that tying our online actions to our real identities is the secret sauce to creating a safer, more civil internet. Let's dig into that argument.
The thinking behind demanding real names is basically that anonymity is a shield for bad behavior. The argument goes like this. If your real name is attached to your account, you're probably going to think twice before being a troll. It would also, in theory, make it way easier to enforce age limits to protect kids, it could cripple those bot networks that spread disinformation, and it would give law enforcement a much clearer path to tracing scams and serious cyberbullying.
And let's be clear, this is not just some theoretical debate club topic. No way! This is happening right now. Let's take a quick trip around the world and see how different powers are already putting these exact ideas into practice.
If you look across the globe, you can see this momentum building, just in slightly different flavors. China has one of the strictest systems, full stop. The EU and the UK are being a bit more targeted, going after things like verifying sellers on online marketplaces or implementing age checks. And in the US, while there's no federal law yet, it's a constant heated debate. But the underlying trend is pretty undeniable. More verification is coming.
But what actually happens when a country decides to go all in? Well, we don't have to guess. To really understand the potential risks here, we have a perfect real-world experiment to look at: the case of South Korea.
So the story starts back in 2007. South Korea was dealing with a really serious cyberbullying problem. So they passed a law that required people to use their national ID to post comments online. But then, just 5 years later, the country's highest court did something pretty dramatic. They struck the whole thing down, calling it unconstitutional. So the big question is, what went so wrong?
The answer reveals two huge failures. First, studies found that it just didn't work. Online abuse barely changed at all. But second, and this is way more dangerous, it forced websites to create these giant databases full of citizen identities, which, of course, became an absolute goldmine for hackers. The result? A series of massive, devastating data leaks.
And that whole cautionary tale from South Korea brings us perfectly to the other side of this debate, the powerful case for protecting anonymity, which, when you get right down to it, is an argument for freedom. And right here, you can see the fundamental clash of values. For every argument about accountability, there's a really strong counterargument about freedom. One side says, we have to stop the trolls. The other side says, but anonymity protects whistleblowers and activists. One side wants to help law enforcement. The other is terrified of mass surveillance and creating a chilling effect where people become too afraid to speak their minds. And this isn't just some fringe philosophical concern. It has backing at the absolute highest levels. The UN Human Rights Council itself has gone on record declaring that anonymity is essential for free expression in our digital age. From their point of view, it's a fundamental human right, not just some loophole for bad guys.
Okay, so with such a deep, fundamental divide between safety and freedom, where does that leave us? Well, the future probably isn't about one side winning. It's much more likely to be about finding a very, very difficult compromise. So what does a compromise even look like? It seems to be taking shape in three key ways. First, we're already seeing a lot more light touch verification, things like phone number checks. At the same time, platforms are pouring billions into AI moderation to try and catch the bad stuff without needing your ID. And all of this is leading to what you could call a hybrid system, where a platform knows who you are, but they keep it private, only revealing it if they get a court order.
This all points toward a really fascinating concept that might just be the key: pseudonymity. That's a bit different from total anonymity. Just think of a Reddit username. It's not your real name, but it is a consistent identity that builds a reputation, good or bad, over time. It creates a form of accountability for that specific username without tying your real-world identity to every single thing you do online.
And all of this leaves us with one final crucial question. What do we actually want our digital world to be? Should it be like a public square where our words are forever tied to our real identity and we're totally accountable for them? Or should it be more like a series of private gatherings where we have the freedom to speak our minds without fear? The answer we choose isn't just going to shape the internet, it's going to define who we're even allowed to be online.